"You're not really part of this family," my sister whispered as they posed for group photos without me. I stood off to the side until the photographer asked, "Who's paying for this?" That's when I stepped forward and said, "My entire life, I was the reliable one, the easy one, always in the background, a ghost in my own family portrait." But when my own sister, the golden child, whispered that I wasn't really part of their family, something inside me didn't just snap. It shattered, then hardened into a quiet resolve. And that's when I decided I would make sure everyone finally saw me, even if it meant watching her meticulously built world come crashing down. For 32 years, that was my role. Leo, the low-maintenance son, the dependable brother who never made a fuss. My parents, especially my mom, loved to call me low maintenance, which I knew was just code for "we can ignore him, and he won't complain." We weren't a bad family, not really, just one with a very specific idea of what a family member should look like, and I never quite fit. My older sister, Ava, who's 35, was the undisputed golden child. She's married with 2 kids I mostly saw on Instagram. My parents practically worshipped her. She could set a house on fire, and they'd find a way to blame the match. Me? I was just Leo, the bachelor. Leo, the artsy one. Leo, the guy who does something with design or photography or computers. Never mind that I ran a successful freelance graphic design business and owned my own apartment in the city. I was still treated like the quiet teenager they didn't quite know how to talk to at family dinners. Then came the wedding. Not mine, obviously. It was Ava's vow renewal ceremony. Because apparently one wedding wasn't enough. No, she needed a full-blown beachfront extravaganza. Catered dinner, custom flower arches, a professional photographer. Just to mark 5 years of marriage. "It's symbolic," she chirped when I asked why she was spending more than most people's down payments on a party for a marriage that wasn't even new. "It's about commitment, and it's a great excuse to get the family together." 2 months before, Ava had called me with that dreaded phrase, "I need your help." Honestly, that alone should have been my first red flag. She said, "I know you're really good with all that creative stuff. Can you help me with the invites and maybe some photo editing afterward? Also, we're trying to keep the budget tight, so if you could pitch in for the photographer, that'd be amazing. You'll get credit on the site, too." She said it like she was offering me a career-defining business opportunity, not asking me to drop $4,000 for a guy holding a camera. Against every fiber of my being, I agreed. Not because I wanted to, but because I could already hear my mom sigh over the phone. "Ava would do it for you." A laughable claim we both knew was untrue. So I said yes. I wired the money. I designed her invitations from scratch, customized a floral monogram, coordinated the RSVP site, and even offered to help with the setup on the big day. No thank you card. Not even a shout-out. Just a casual, "Thanks, Leo," in a group text sent at 11 p.m. The venue was stunning. I'll give her that. A rented estate overlooking the ocean, the sun setting perfectly for golden hour, string lights draped everywhere like something out of a dream. Everyone was dressed in white and beige, her aesthetic. I wore a navy blue suit, which earned me a few subtle side eyes from her bridesmaids, but I let it slide. I always let it slide. That night, though, something shifted. I was near the drink station, nursing a cheap glass of wine, watching the chaos. Ava posed with her kids and in-laws. I saw my parents doting on the grandkids with Ava's in-laws, talking about how perfectly everything turned out. My name card? It had mysteriously been placed at the kids' table. I'm not kidding. I didn't complain. I just quietly picked up my plate, found an empty table near the back, and ate in peace. Maybe they just forgot. Maybe it was a mistake. I told myself that, trying to ward off that old, familiar sting in my chest. After dinner, it was photo time. The photographer started calling out groupings. "Bride's family, please," he announced, gesturing everyone to the flower arch. Ava waved everyone over. My mom, my dad, her kids, her husband, even a few distant cousins I barely recognized. I stood up and started walking towards them, only to feel a gentle tug on my elbow. It was Ava. She leaned in, that tight, fake smile plastered on her face, the one she reserved for uncomfortable moments. She whispered, "Hey, maybe just sit this one out. It's kind of just immediate family." I blinked. "What?" She kept smiling like nothing was wrong. "You know what I mean," she said softly. "We don't want to confuse the layout. Plus, you'll be in the ones with everyone later. I promise." I stood there for a second, absolutely stunned. She walked off before I could even reply, already fixing her hair and adjusting the flower in her daughter's headband. My stomach dropped. My face felt hot. I slowly backed away and watched as the group formed neatly without me. Mom stood right in the middle, beaming. Dad had his arm around Ava's husband. Everyone looked so complete. That's when Ava glanced back at me again, just for a second, just long enough to lean slightly and whisper something across the breeze. I barely caught it, but I did. "You're not really part of this family." That was it. Just a whisper. No venom in her voice. No cruelty. Just a quiet truth from her lips to my ears, like she was stating the obvious, like she thought I already knew. And maybe I did. I didn't react. I didn't cry. I didn't cause a scene. I just stood there, frozen in that moment, my heart thudding in my chest like a slow, heavy drumbeat. The group posed, the camera clicked, and the moment passed until the photographer turned and asked loudly, "Who's handling payment, by the way?" Everyone turned. Ava looked around, confused. My mom tilted her head like she'd forgotten something. That was exactly when everything began to shift. I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it carried. The photographer looked relieved. Ava's eyes widened for just a second before she smoothed her expression over with a saccharine smile, the kind she used whenever someone she disliked was watching. "Oh, right," she chirped, walking over quickly. "Leo's just helping out a bit with the vendor stuff. He's good at that kind of thing, aren't you, Leo?" She gave me a light pat on the shoulder and a side glance that screamed, "Don't you dare make a scene." I didn't reply. I just nodded and turned toward the photographer. "Send the invoice directly to me," I told him, handing him my business card. "This whole shoot's on me." I walked off after that. I didn't want to watch them shuffle back into poses now with slightly more awkward smiles. I sat down by the garden wall beneath one of the twinkling lights Ava had insisted on renting and stared at the sea while my phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't check it. I knew it was probably a half-hearted thank you text in the family group chat, or worse, radio silence, because they'd moved on, because I wasn't in the picture, literally and figuratively. But the truth is, that moment cracked something open, and once the crack started, it was impossible to ignore how wide it really ran. 2 days later, I got a call from my mom. No hello, just, "Hey, can you come over this weekend? We're doing a family brunch. Ava's planning it, and she says you can help with setup again." No thank you for the photographer. No how are you? Just another task. I paused. "I'm not available this weekend." She sighed heavily. "Leo, don't be difficult. Your sister is doing a lot right now. She's overwhelmed. The least you could do is help her out a bit." "The least I could do," I repeated slowly. "You don't have kids, Leo. You don't have a family to take care of. You have time." She said it like it was a fact, like I was a resource, not a person. "I run a business," I said, struggling to keep my voice level. "I work long hours, Mom." "Oh, that freelancing thing? Can't you just reschedule that freelancing thing?" The words hung in the air. I bit the inside of my cheek hard. "I can't, Mom. And I won't." She was quiet for a moment. Then, with a tone she reserved for guilt-tripping, she muttered, "Fine, I'll tell Ava. But don't be surprised if she's upset." She hung up before I could reply. The next week, I got a text from Ava. "Heard you're too busy to help with brunch. Hope the business is going well." Upside down face. The upside down face emoji made it worse. Passive-aggressive, dismissive, smug. It didn't stop there. At Dad's birthday, the next family event, I arrived with a framed custom poster I'd made of one of his favorite vintage cars. I'd spent hours designing it, had it printed and mounted professionally. When I handed it to him, he gave me a polite smile and said, "Thanks, son." Then he leaned over and picked up a Bluetooth speaker Ava had gotten him and exclaimed, "Now this is useful. Look at this thing, it even lights up." I stood there holding the wrapping paper in my hands while everyone gathered around Ava's gift and ignored mine, still resting on the table behind them. During dinner, I tried to talk about a project I was working on, a rebrand for a startup that had just gotten series of funding. But every time I started, someone interrupted me. "Have you seen Ava's new backyard? They're adding a fountain. Did you know Ava's youngest is already reading full sentences? She's 3. Ava's thinking of launching a blog. It's going to be all about parenting and lifestyle tips. She has such a natural gift for it." I sipped my wine and said nothing again. Later that evening, I offered to help clean up. My mom handed me a garbage bag, nodded toward the backyard, and said, "Start with the recycling out there, and don't take the shortcut through the living room." Ava's trying to film something for her Instagram. Like I was the hired help. Like I didn't belong in the family space. Like I was a shadow slipping around the edges of their real lives. By the time I got home that night, something had shifted completely. It wasn't just the vow renewal. It wasn't just Ava's whisper. It wasn't just the way Mom dismissed my business or the way Dad ignored my gift. It was all of it. Every quiet slight. Every moment I was made to feel like an extra in my own family. Every time I gave and got less than nothing in return. I'd always swallowed it. Always told myself they don't mean it. That they're just distracted. That this is just how families are. But that wasn't true. They meant it. Maybe not maliciously. Maybe not consciously. But they meant it. To them, I was a convenient helper, a wallet when needed, a tool to check things off their list. Never a priority, never a centerpiece, never even in the picture. And I realized I'd been paying, emotionally and literally, for the privilege of being excluded. That's when I decided something needed to change. But first, I had to play the role a little longer. Just long enough to gather a few pieces. Just long enough to get close to something they didn't know I was looking for. Just long enough to find the moment I'd step forward again, not just as the guy footing the bill, but as the one holding all the strings. And when that moment came, I wouldn't just be in the picture. I'd be the one framing it. The moment came 2 months later, quietly, unexpectedly, and with a sting I didn't see coming. My cousin Becca was getting married, and for once, someone in the extended family actually remembered to send me a proper invitation. The kind that wasn't just an afterthought. I RSVP'd, bought a nice suit, and was even looking forward to it until I got the email. It was from Ava. Subject, quick favor. Body, hey Leo. So, Becca's wedding is coming up. Yay. I know you're already going, which is perfect. We're throwing her a surprise bridal brunch the day before at Mom and Dad's, and I need help with the decor and photos. You're so good at those things, and honestly, I don't trust anyone else to make it look right. Can you come by early? Also, if you still have that nice DSLR, bring it. The real photographer is only coming for the ceremony. No mention of payment, no offer of help, just another assignment wrapped in faux praise and emojis. I stared at the message for a long time, and despite everything, despite how I'd been treated, despite knowing better, I replied, "Sure, I'll be there." Because I'd already begun playing a longer game, one where patience was my best weapon. I showed up early like she asked. I brought my gear. I took the photos, arranged the centerpieces, and stayed late to help Mom clean up while Ava flitted around taking selfies with Becca and making sure every angle of her outfit looked perfect on camera. It felt like old times, which is to say, I was invisible again, but smiling through it. Becca's wedding was beautiful, simple, heartfelt. Not 1,000 extravaganza like Ava's vow renewal, but there was so much warmth in the air, it made up for everything. I snapped a few casual shots from my seat just because I liked doing it. No pressure this time. That night, as I was unwinding at home, I got a notification from Instagram. Ava and Bloom posted a new photo. Curious, I clicked. It was one of the shots I'd taken. Becca and her new husband under the ceremony arch, laughing, sun hitting just right. A beautiful moment. But the caption stopped me cold. Captured this special moment on Becca's big day? So glad I brought my camera. Hashtag wedding vibes, hashtag photographer life. I blinked. Read it again. She was taking credit. She was taking credit for my work. Not just a repost, not a tag, not a thanks to my brother. She'd uploaded the photo, watermarked it with her own name, and posted it as if she'd taken it. And not just one. There were 6 more photos in the same post. All mine. All reframed just slightly, cropped enough to avoid suspicion. But undeniably my shots. I recognized the way I composed the angles, the edits, the way I played with light. I didn't know what stung more, the theft, or how casual it was. Like she didn't even think I'd care. I messaged her. Me. Hey, saw your new post. Those are my pictures. She replied 5 minutes later. Ava. Oh, come on, Leo. It's Instagram. Don't be petty. You take photos for fun, right? I thought you wouldn't mind. I just stared at the message. My hands trembled, not with rage, but with a kind of bone-deep hurt I hadn't expected. She thought I wouldn't mind because she assumed I had nothing to lose. Because in her eyes, my time, my work, my craft, it was all disposable. It wasn't about Instagram. It wasn't even about credit. It was about the message underneath it all. You don't matter enough for me to ask. I didn't respond. I couldn't. But that night, I pulled up my hard drive. I looked through the files I'd saved, every design I'd done for her vow renewal, every invite I'd customized, every filtered and corrected photo from that day. And I remembered something. The website. Months ago, when Ava had asked me to help out with the RSVP site, she'd wanted something cheap, free. So, I set her up with a simple template using a domain I owned, avandianich.com. I offered to transfer it to her later, but she never followed up. She never asked about it again. It was still under my account, still mine. I logged in and checked the analytics. Hundreds of visitors still clicked through the gallery link. All my photos, my work, my designs, and her name plastered on all of it. The domain wasn't set to auto-renew. The expiration date was in 3 weeks. I stared at the screen, my mind suddenly clear, cold, calculating. Ava had built a little digital shrine to herself using my time, my money, and my creativity, without ever saying thank you, without ever treating me like more than a tool. And she had no idea the foundation was built on a thread I could cut with a single keystroke. But I didn't press it. Not yet. Because this wasn't just about payback. It was about pulling back the curtain, letting the whole house of cards fall. And for that, I needed to wait just a little longer, until the moment when the show had to go on, but I wouldn't be backstage anymore. I'd be holding the spotlight. The days after that post were the quiet kind of miserable, the kind where nothing explodes, but everything just hurts. I didn't speak to Ava, didn't bring it up with my parents. I told myself it wasn't worth the drama, but deep down it festered. Not just because she took credit for my work, but because I realized something darker. No one was going to defend me. A week after the wedding, I went to my parents' house for Sunday dinner, a tradition we'd kept up since before I could drive. I almost didn't go, but part of me still clung to this naive hope that someone would say something. That maybe Ava would apologize. That maybe mom or dad would pull me aside and ask, "Hey, is everything okay between you two?" But all I got was silence. They were laughing when I arrived. I could hear Ava's voice from the kitchen before I even opened the door. She really thought the photographer took those, she was saying between chuckles. I mean, it's not like it's that hard to use a camera. Anyone can do it. My stomach dropped. Becca. She was talking about Becca. I stood in the doorway for a second too long, and Ava finally noticed me. She blinked, then smiled brightly like the conversation hadn't just gutted me. "Hey, Leo, we were just talking about your photos. They were a huge hit." "My photos?" I echoed. "Yeah," she said, completely missing it. "Anyway, you should have seen Becca's face. I told her I'd edited them with your presets. Close enough, right?" I nodded once, walked past them without a word, and sat down at the table. Dinner was normal, painfully so. No one asked how my business was doing. No one mentioned the vow renewal or Becca's wedding or anything about the site or the photos. It was like none of it had ever happened. At one point, Dad asked me to pass the salt and then turned to Ava. So, about your blog, when are you launching it? She smiled. I'm hoping next month. Michael said we might invest in some better equipment. Oh, and Leo's going to help with the branding, right? Everyone turned to me. I looked at her, stunned. What? You said you'd help with the logo and stuff. Remember? No, I said calmly. I didn't. She blinked, then tilted her head. Well, I mean, we talked about it, and I figured I didn't agree to anything. The table went quiet. My mom jumped in. Leo, don't be so rigid. You're so good at these things. Why wouldn't you want to help your sister? She can hire someone, I said flatly, like everyone else does. There was a pause. I could feel the shift in the air, the tightening of jaws, the exchanged glances. My mom's voice dropped a notch. You don't have to be rude about it. I put down my fork and looked around the table. No one met my eyes. I'm not being rude, I said. I'm setting a boundary. Ava scoffed. Okay, therapy talk. That was it. I stood up, took my plate, and walked it to the kitchen. My chest was tight. My hands were shaking. I rinsed the dish like I'd done 100 times before, put it in the dishwasher, dried my hands on the towel, and then I left. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't wait for them to ask where I was going. No one followed. I got in my car, drove back to my apartment, and sat in the parking lot for a long time with the engine running. My phone buzzed once. Mom, please don't make this into a big thing. Ava's under a lot of pressure right now. I didn't reply. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. My apartment was quiet, almost too quiet. No muffled arguments, no clattering plates, no toddler screaming about juice, just the hum of my refrigerator and the occasional car passing outside. It should have been peaceful. It felt like grief. And in that grief, something hardened. I pulled up my email and opened a folder I hadn't touched in months. Ideas for a new portfolio site. I had templates, color palettes, half-finished concepts, all work I'd set aside to help Ava with hers. I stared at the folder for a long time, then opened another. Screenshots I'd been saving. Every design I'd done for Ava. Every post she'd taken credit for. Every message she'd brushed off. Even my bank records from the photographer payment. I didn't know why I'd started collecting them back then. Now I did. It wasn't about revenge yet. Not entirely. It was about reclaiming something. Not just my work, but myself. The next morning, I didn't return my mother's call. I didn't respond to Ava's text about rescheduling our chat about her logo. I didn't answer when my dad sent a generic thumbs-up emoji in the family group chat after Ava posted a teaser for her blog with another one of my pictures. Instead, I opened the domain registrar. avandianitch.com. Status: expires in 14 days. Auto-renew, off. I hovered my mouse over the renewal button. Didn't click it. Then I started a timer on my phone. 13 days, 23 hours, 59 minutes. Let her build. Let her link it everywhere. Let her post one more story about how grateful she is for her success. Because this time, when the curtain fell, I'd be the one standing center stage. The days that followed were some of the quietest I'd experienced in years, and oddly enough, the most productive. Without the background noise of my family's demands, without the constant obligation to show up, give, contribute, smile, I had space. I poured myself into my work. But this time, it wasn't from a place of escapism. It was clarity, focus, purpose. I picked up a few high-end clients through referrals, redesigned 2 entire websites for small businesses in LA, and even got approached by a boutique marketing agency interested in contracting me long-term. I didn't brag. I didn't post about it. I just worked quietly, intentionally. At night, I would sit at my desk with a cup of tea and watch the timer tick down on avandianitch.com. 13 days became 10, then 7. Every day, the site got more bloated with Ava's blog plans. New tabs appeared. Parenting, lifestyle, shop, Ava's favorites. I recognized every design element because I had built them. Then came the real irony. She emailed me. Subject: urgent domain transfer needed. Hey Leo. So, I finally started adding blog posts. Eek. And Michael says we should really move the domain over to our own account before launch. I know you set it up under your stuff, but can you just send me the login info or whatever we need? I can Venmo you $20 if it costs anything. LOL. I stared at it for a long time. Not thank you. Not, I appreciate all the time and effort you put into this. Not even can I please. Just, I can Venmo you $20, as if everything I'd done, all the hours I'd poured into her vanity project, could be reduced to a $20 transfer and a casual LOL. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened a new project file, my own site, my portfolio. I used the color palette I'd originally reserved for Ava: deep charcoal, gold highlights, soft white backgrounds. Clean, confident, mature. I titled the front page simply, Leonard Gray, Visual Identity Architect. Not freelance designer, not brother who does artsy stuff. A visual identity architect. Because that's what I did. I built how people saw you, and it was about time I built myself. A few days later, a former client of mine, a wedding planner, reached out in a panic. Her photographer had canceled last minute for a destination wedding in Italy. She remembered the photos I'd taken at Ava's vow renewal, which I had posted on my separate photo account, and asked if I'd be willing to fill in. I hesitated. It was a 10-day commitment. The pay was generous, the exposure even more so, but it meant disappearing completely right as Ava's timer hit 0. I said yes. I packed my gear, boarded a flight to Florence, and for the first time in years, felt like I was living my life, not just reacting to everyone else's. The wedding was stunning. I shot on film and digital. I got compliments from the couple, the planner, and even the venue owner who asked for my card. One of the guests turned out to be a partner at a design firm in Amsterdam. We talked over espresso, and by the end of the night, he'd asked if I'd be open to a cross-continental collaboration. I told him I'd think about it. I wasn't chasing validation anymore. I already had what I needed: control, momentum, and a growing list of people who saw my value without needing to be related to me. When I flew home, it was the night before the domain expired. I unpacked my bags, set down my camera, and opened the registrar one last time. avondianich.com expires in 9 hours 44 minutes. My inbox was a mess of unread messages from Ava. Hey, I really need this domain thing fixed. Leo, seriously, please don't be difficult. I have my launch scheduled for Thursday. Michael is furious. Why are you doing this? Then one from Mom. Please just give your sister what she needs. You know how important this is to her. Of course, always about how important things were to Ava, but no one asked how important anything was to me. I closed the email tab. Instead, I opened a new one to Becca. She'd recently messaged me on Instagram, thanking me for the candid shots I'd taken at her wedding after she found out Ava hadn't taken them after all. She'd even offered to pay me. I refused the money but asked her for a favor. Becca was still in the extended family group chat, the one Ava wasn't in. I typed, "Hey, I've been working on something. I'd like to share it with everyone. Would you mind posting a link to my new portfolio in the family group chat tomorrow morning?" She replied within minutes. "Absolutely. About time they saw what you can really do." I smiled. Then I reopened the registrar. The mouse hovered over the Renew button one last time, but I didn't click it. Instead, I opened a new domain registrar tab and bought something else, avonniche.blog for $12. I own the name now, not because I wanted to use it, but because I knew what would happen when her old site went dark. When the links she'd posted on Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, and that podcast interview she'd done all pointed to nothing. When the illusion crumbled, I wasn't going to humiliate her. I wasn't going to shout or expose or destroy. I was just going to quietly pull the plug. Let the silence speak. Let the house fall. Because when people ignore the one holding the foundation, they forget how easily that person can walk away and take everything with them. I slept better that night than I had in months. There was a strange peace in knowing the clock was ticking. Not against me, but for me. Every hour that passed brought me closer to something I never thought I'd feel with my family. Control. Not the kind that comes from shouting or making threats. No, the quiet kind. The kind that comes when people realize too late that they've mistaken kindness for weakness and generosity for obedience. That morning, Becca kept her word. At exactly 9 a.m., she posted my new portfolio link in the family group chat with a simple message. Check out Leo's new site. He's the one who did the graphics and photos for Ava's wedding site. It's insane how good he is. Honestly, the best in the family. I wasn't in the group chat, but she forwarded me the replies. My mom responded first. Oh wow, this looks so professional. Leo, I didn't realize you did all this yourself. Then a cousin I hadn't seen in years. Wait, Leo designed all of Ava's stuff. I thought she hired a firm. And then the one that changed everything. Ava's mother-in-law, Sharon. Michael told me Ava was working with a branding consultant. This looks 100x better than what she paid for. Why isn't this on her site? I nearly laughed. By noon, Ava was blowing up my phone. What did you do? Why is everyone saying you made my site? You're making me look like a liar. Fix this. I didn't answer. I didn't have to because by then something else had started happening. While everyone was discovering what I could do, I was discovering something, too. Becca, ever the gossip pipeline of the family, had started sharing little details with me. Tidbits she'd heard at brunches and birthday parties I hadn't been invited to. Normally, I brushed them off. But this time, one thing caught my attention. Apparently, Ava was pitching her new blog as a business, not just a hobby. She had already reached out to 2 local mom-focused companies for sponsorship. Her big, soft launch was scheduled for the weekend. She planned to drop links to her site, post a video walkthrough of her blog sections, and do a giveaway to attract subscribers. The only problem, she'd printed the wrong domain on every promotional card and gift bag. All 500 of them. avandianich.com. Becca had seen them. She even sent me a picture. The cards were beige with gold script and little fake wax seals. I had to admit, they looked good, elegant, tasteful, exactly what I would have designed if she'd asked. But that was just it. She never asked. And now, because of that, every piece of promo material she planned to hand out this weekend led straight to a dead link. Unless, I typed the address into my browser. avandianich.com, status, expired. Available for purchase. I bought it again. $18. Just like that, the digital foundation of her blog, the site she'd linked in bios, printed on merchandise, sent to sponsors, was back under my control. I didn't plan to humiliate her. This wasn't going to be some petty takedown with glitter fonts and dancing frogs. I had something else in mind, something quieter, more elegant. I created a single landing page. White background, simple serif font, and one line in the middle. This site has been retired by the original designer. Please contact leonardgray.co for design inquiries. No insults, no names, just the truth. It wasn't about Ava anymore. It was about me. Later that night, as I finalized the page, I got a DM on Instagram from someone I didn't know at the Mom Network. Hey Leo, we came across your site today. Your design work is incredible. Are you currently taking on new clients? I clicked their profile. Over 60K followers, a verified badge, a mix of parenting content, lifestyle tips, and interviews with female entrepreneurs. I'd seen Ava tag them before in her posts, always with the hope of getting featured or maybe even picked up as a contributor. I responded, thanks. I am. We scheduled a video call for the next morning. I didn't tell Ava. I didn't tell anyone, but I knew exactly what would happen if I landed them as a client. It wouldn't just be an opportunity. It would be proof. Proof that I wasn't just the guy behind the camera. I was the one shaping the whole picture. And Ava had spent years pretending I was just available while I'd quietly become valuable. The night before her launch event, I saw her post a countdown on Instagram. Can't wait to show you all what I've been working on. Big reveal tomorrow at 3 p.m. Partying face. She still hadn't realized the domain was gone. She was walking straight into it. And I wasn't going to stop her because sometimes the best revenge isn't loud. It's standing tall while the person who ignored you stumbles over their own ego and realizing they need you. But this time, you've already walked away. The morning of Ava's big launch felt calm. I woke up to the sound of city traffic, made myself a strong coffee, and sat at my desk while the sun filtered through the blinds. The usual anxiety that used to come with anything involving my family was gone. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel nervous. I felt ready. I opened my site, leonardgray.co, and gave the front page a final polish. Then I checked the other site, avandianich.com. Still mine, still live, still displaying the quiet, professional message. This site has been retired by the original designer. Please contact leonardgray.co for design inquiries. No drama, no insults, just a redirect to the truth. At 11 a.m., I had my call with the Modern Mom Network. They loved me. The founder, Kara, had seen my portfolio through a cousin who worked in branding. She told me she was looking for someone who could combine softness with structure, someone who could give their brand a glow up without making it look like an Etsy baby shower page. We talked about strategy, design theory, color psychology, user funnels, and typography. She got excited when I mentioned UX testing. By the end of the call, she said, "We want to bring you on for our next 3 brand campaigns. Can I send you an NDA today?" I nodded, smiled, and said, "Absolutely." I signed the NDA 2 hours before Ava's launch event. Becca had been texting me updates all morning. Apparently, Ava had gone all in. She rented out a lounge cafe in the suburbs, complete with a mimosa bar, branded goodie bags, a little display table for her blog prints, and even a mini interview booth for Instagram Live. She thinks today's her big break, Becca wrote. She printed out QR codes to the site and put them on everything. Everything. I could barely keep from smiling. At 2:50 p.m., I sat down at my desk, refreshed the analytics page for the domain, and waited. 3 p.m., the numbers started climbing. 10 visitors, 30, 56. Then it shot past 100. They were all scanning her QR codes, clicking her links, typing in the address, clicking, and landing on my message. I imagined them standing in that perfectly curated lounge, scanning their little cards, and whispering, "Wait, this isn't the site. Where's the blog? What does retired by the original designer mean?" And Ava's standing there in her beige jumpsuit, holding a flute of champagne with a shaky smile, slowly realizing that none of the links worked, that nothing she printed mattered, that everything she was promoting was already gone. At 3:07 p.m., my phone buzzed. "Ava, what did you do? Are you serious right now? I'm at my launch. People are asking what's going on. Fix this right now." I didn't respond. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because I didn't owe her anything anymore. A minute later, another message. "Leo, I'm serious. I have potential sponsors here. You're ruining everything." Ruining? No. She had ruined it the moment she decided my time, my work, and my name were disposable. I refreshed the site. Over 300 visitors now. And then something strange happened. People stayed. Average time on site, 2 minutes 54 seconds. They weren't bouncing. They were clicking through to my portfolio. And that's when the emails started. First one from a parenting podcast asking about brand consulting. Then a yoga studio, a mother-daughter travel blog. One woman wrote, "Hey, I saw your name on a blog launch page that seems to have not gone as planned. LOL, but your portfolio is stunning. Are you open to small biz branding?" By the time Ava's launch party wrapped up in a cloud of confusion and frustration, I had booked 2 more consultations. At 6:30 p.m., I finally opened her latest message. "I swear to God, Leo, if you don't fix this, you're dead to me." I typed out a reply, deleted it, typed it again, deleted it again, then I sent one sentence. "It was never yours to begin with." That was it. I closed the messages and moved on with my evening. At 9 p.m., Becca texted me one last time. She left the party early. She cried in the bathroom. Michael looked like he was about to explode. Your mom said it was typical Leo, always needing to make a point. I didn't say anything, but a few of the cousins, they're on your side now. I read that twice and realized I didn't care what mom said anymore. For the first time in my life, I didn't need their approval. I had built something of my own. Without them, beyond them. A career, a name, a brand. Something they could neither dismiss nor take credit for. And Ava, she could still make her blog. She could still reprint her materials. She could even try to rebrand from scratch. But no matter what she did, the launch, the moment she wanted to prove herself to the world, would always be tied to mine. And everyone who saw her fall saw me rise. The next morning, I woke up to silence. No angry texts, no voicemails, no group chat drama. Just the sound of my own breathing and the soft hum of my computer still open from the night before. I stretched, made coffee, and sat down to check my inbox. 6 new client inquiries, one from a local organic skincare brand, another from a digital magazine that had seen my site through, ironically, a link shared in a Reddit thread mocking Ava's failed blog launch. It had made the front page of a niche design community. When you try to launch a lifestyle brand using someone else's talent and forget who actually built your platform, someone had screenshotted the domain message and shared it with the caption, "Imagine launching your blog only to advertise the person you underpaid and ignored." Poetic. The comments were brutal, but not from me. I hadn't said a word publicly. I didn't have to. By the afternoon, my mother finally called. I let it ring, then ring again, then a third time. On the fourth, I answered. "Leo," she said, voice tight. "We need to talk." I leaned back in my chair. I figured, your sister is devastated. She'll live. She sighed sharply, like she'd been holding it in. You embarrassed her in front of her friends, in front of her husband's colleagues. You sabotaged her after everything we've done for you. I laughed. A small, bitter chuckle. I didn't bother hiding it. Everything you've done for me, or everything you expected from me. There was a pause. You were always so dramatic, she muttered. Ava was just trying to build something. We all are. You could have been a part of it. I was the whole thing, I said. But none of you saw it. Mom, I'm not coming to brunch next week, or the week after that. Silence. I'm not disappearing, I continued. But I'm done being useful without being seen. I'm done being the background. She didn't argue. She just hung up. Ava didn't reach out again. Michael sent me one final email. Short, clipped, angry. Something about brand damage and possible legal action. I responded with a copy of the domain receipt, a screenshot of the site agreement Ava had never finalized, and my invoice for unpaid design work. He never replied. 2 weeks later, I saw Ava had launched a new site, avanich.blog. It looked fine, basic, a template from a free builder. The kind of site that came with placeholder text still lingering in the footer, proudly powered by Simple Sites. She posted about her new start, called it a minor technical glitch, and pushed through, but it never took off. The sponsors didn't call back. The giveaway fizzled. The comments were minimal. Her social media engagement tanked, probably because half the people following her were more interested in the drama than the content. Meanwhile, I hired a virtual assistant, booked a flight to Amsterdam to meet that design firm partner in person, and over the next 3 months, I doubled my income. I still didn't get invited to family dinners, but I didn't need to be. One afternoon, while cleaning out a drawer, I found the original sketches I'd made for Ava's vow renewal invitations. Elegant curves, personalized details, a little monogram I had spent 3 days perfecting. I smiled, tore the page in half, and tossed it into the recycling bin. A week later, I mailed out my first set of business cards. Leonard Gray, Visual Identity Architect. Clean, sharp, no frills. On the back, in small lettering, was my new slogan, "Don't forget who built the brand." That was the last time I ever gave anyone my work without knowing where it would lead. And the first time I realized sometimes the best way to be seen is to stop hiding behind people who never looked at you in the first place. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more crazy Reddit tales, and ring the bell so you never miss the next one. And hey, share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to know what you would have done in this situation.